everyone, welcome to the podcast. And this is co-host Tushar with Eugene. On this podcast, we will be discussing the approach to take towards various things in running as a sport, and we will also be discussing a couple of things that goes into actual coaching that we use to train an athlete. So that's about a quick podcast introduction, and I'll quickly give you my introduction, who am I and what I exactly do. So, being an athlete myself, I have been educating myself, researching and coaching in the endurance space, specifically into triathlons and running, and also some part of the fitness from past 5 to 6 years. And I have worked with athletes all around the globe. I specialize in the movement of the sport, and I have always believed that coaching is much, much more to do with just a training plan and the socialization aspect of it. So that's about my introduction, and I'll quickly hand it over to you, Eugene, to give you a quick introduction about yourself.
Thanks, Tusha. Hi, everyone. So my name is Eugene Lee from Singapore. And just to bring forward to the table, I come forward with close to more than 2 decades of experience coaching development athletes as well as performance athletes, both in triathlon as well as in endurance sport. Midway through my career, I've also ventured into the fitness industry, whereby primarily I'm now doing a lot of education and I focus a lot on the applied sense, whereby regardless of whether you're an athlete, educator, or someone who has an interest in endurance sport or movement, that's where I come in. So it's really exciting to see all of you here, and let's get started with the podcast.
In this podcast, we'll be discussing some of the key concepts of running for beginners, and these two concepts are goal setting for running and managing your expectations during your running training. So let's dive into the topic, and let me ask you a question, Eugene. What are your takes on what is the importance of goal setting in the running? What do you think? What is your opinion on that?
Thank you very much, Tusha. It's a great question about the importance of goal setting in running. Now, this is something you may have heard of very commonly, and it's not only for elite athletes, but also anyone who has just begun his running journey. Now, when we talk about goal setting, there are tremendous benefits, and I'm just going to very quickly go through a number of them. The first one with goal setting is goal setting can really help you to stay motivated. Now, it's very interesting how us as humans, when we actually pen down something or we can actually see a particular target being written down, we tend to keep ourselves motivated by telling ourselves daily, like, look, this is something I'm going to achieve. Or in terms of running, I'm going to work towards this so that I can achieve my dream of running my first 5K. It keeps us motivated in a good way. And this motivation can come in a form of extrinsic motivation. Now, when we write our goals down, we are constantly reminded every morning that there is work to be done, and this serves as a good source of extrinsic motivation. Now, this extrinsic motivation somehow channels itself into intrinsic motivation as well, because when you actually start thinking about or dreaming about being able to run your 10 kilometers or even a marathon for some of you, eventually, there is an internal drive that helps you get going all the time. So being motivated is one key benefit you could get from setting good goals itself. Now, the other area of goal setting also helps you to keep track of your progress. I'll give you an example. So if your goal is to be able to run 5 kilometers in 30 minutes, there is actually a numerical value to that. Now, when you actually do the math, you realize that to be able to run 30 minutes for 5 kilometers, you should be looking at being able to run at least 6 minutes per kilometer in terms of a pace. And during training, if you think that this is going in the right direction, meaning that every time when you're running your intervals or when you're running your runs and you're holding a pace which you think you can manage well at 6 minutes per kilometer, well, then you know you're on the right track. However, if you are not hitting these times and you're way far from them, then you might want to relook at your goals midway through and then manage your expectations, because 6 minutes per kilometer may be too much of a reach for you. So this is a very good example of how goal setting also helps you to track progress. Now, one of the things as well with goal setting is it also helps you to achieve your desired outcome. For some of you, apart from just completing your first 5K or 10K, you also want to have other outcomes from running. And these outcomes could be varying from leading a healthier lifestyle, or being more disciplined for yourself, or being able to make more friends and through a journey in running. So with all this said, goal setting is not just a paper exercise. There are actually a lot more benefits that can come with goal setting. And maybe it's time for you to decide to take time and find time for yourself to set down some goals and even possibly work with a coach to develop these goals. What do you think, Tusha?
Yeah, I think that was a fair bit of idea about goal setting and importance of it. So I definitely agree with the points that you have discussed here, and I would like to add in some of the points. So if we see a goal to be set for running your journey, that will help you in a way to plan your things ahead in your training. Like it will help you to keep motivated, as Eugene has discussed. Another thing that it will give you the ability to plan your training blocks. So you break down your goal into smaller chunks and you plan your training blocks ahead, and that will going to give you smaller gains which are going to lead you towards the bigger gains. So that is how your goal will keep you going to be going in the direction that you want, and it will also help you keep tracking of the progress, because you are training in a certain chunks of the training blocks. So these blocks are focused on specific things that are needed for your goal. So basically, if you are on the endurance journey and if you are starting a beginning very freshly, like you do not even have ran a 5 kilometers or 1 kilometer or even a 500 meters, then your goal might be like you might want to run for a 30 minutes continuously, and you will break it down into smaller goals, like okay, run 5 minutes continuously, run 10 minutes continuously, and that is a training block. There is a training block for each of this smaller goal. So that is how you will be tracking your progress as well. It will keep you motivated because you are achieving the smaller chunks of your goals, and then that is going to lead you towards your desired outcome. So I think that these are the things that will keep you benefited and also give you much more motivation, rather than seeking the external motivation that it just comes from outside of the world. But here what is happening exactly is you are taking the action and then motivation is coming. So that motivation is much more sustainable, and it's just called as an intrinsic motivation. But let's not go into it. We'll go into it in the next couple of sections. So yeah, I think this was pretty much about this section of the goal setting. And I think now let's go over to the next question.
Let's look at how we can set goals for ourselves. So one of the good ways and simple ways to do it is utilizing SMART goals. So SMART is an acronym, and we'll find out a little more about what SMART goals are. Tusha, do you want to run us through what SMART goals and how do you set SMART goals for running?
All right, that's a very good question. And actually, the SMART goal setting is what will get you started into your running training. So let's go and break down what exactly is the SMART goals. So SMART is an acronym and short form for specific, measurable, achievable, relatable, and time bound. So these are the goals and properties of the goal that you are setting. So let's take one example of a goal and let's break it down. So if you are a beginner runner who is running 10 to 15 minutes continuously, and you are setting a goal of, let's say, running a 5 kilometers under 40 minutes in next 3 months with the 2 to 3 days per week of training. Okay, now that's a SMART goal. How? Let's see. Specific and measurable is because you said that you want to go and run for a 5k. This is a specific, so you are talking about a specific distance here, and that distance is also measurable, right? So it is a specific and measurable. So measurable also counts to be 5k under 40 minutes. That's also the component of measurable, and it is fairly achievable because as a beginner runner, you are running 10 to 15 minutes continuously, but now you want to advance yourself for 5k in 40 minutes, and so that's your actually 40 minutes of continuous run, and you are giving a time specific to it, like a next 3 months, let's say. So that becomes achievable, and also the time bound because you have given it a time frame to achieve, right? The 3 months. And relatable as well, because since you are a new runner, there is like it won't be good for you to directly go for ultras or maybe higher distances rather than going for the shorter distances and then progress ahead, because that is how your body gets adapted to some distance, your body gets endurance, your body gets speed, and then these short achievable things then turn into much bigger things. Okay, so let's give you an example. If someone is running a 42 kilometers at a very first instance of his running career or maybe running training, that's not a bad, but then let's see how it affects it. It will affect, like he doesn't have experience or endurance to run even a 5 kilometers. Okay, now let's say if he wants to run a 42 kilometers in next 5 months, but then if you build your endurance for the 5k, 10k and 21k, your body will be much more efficient in maintaining that endurance over the longer distance for the 42 kilometers, and that is how efficient you get into running. It is about how efficiently you run, it is not about what distance you run. Okay, so that is the example of one of the SMART goal, and this is how you apply it in your running as a framework. So break it down in chunks. Think of, is it measurable, is it specific, is it achievable, is it like relatable, is it time bound? Just think of all these 5 properties while setting your goals, and then it will what it will do is when you set the SMART goals, it will give you ability to test yourself at a certain intervals. Like it will help you to, let's say, if you are going from the 10 minutes, if you are currently running at the 10 minutes, then if you started to go for and follow the training plan, next time within few weeks you will go for running a 15 minutes, then you reach up to 30 minutes. So that is your progress, and you are going to track that. Okay, so that is your endurance gets to that duration of the running. Okay, and then it becomes your actually fitness testing as well, because you are going to go much higher in the duration because you are just running 10 minutes and you reach to the 30 minutes. So kind of a fitness test, it would not be exactly a fitness test, but kind of a fitness test or goal that you can see towards it, that you have reached from a point A to B, and that is how it will help you to keep motivated by seeing these parameters that your training is going in a certain direction, and it will keep you on track and motivated by taking these actions again and again throughout the weeks for that 3 entire months. And then at the end of the 3 months, you will be surely on your track to go and run your 40 minutes of 5 kilometers. So I think that is about my inputs on setting the smart goals for running. And I would like to understand your viewpoint on the same, Eugene. So what are your takes on this?
Well, thanks for that very thorough explanation of SMART goals. I think you covered it all. I think more importantly is when we actually look at establishing SMART goals, is to again not let yourself be locked in by these parameters. One of the things that I've seen with many athletes as well is once they set a SMART goal and they're just set out to doing something, and when they encounter a limitation or a challenge or even a setback, they get very disappointed. So use SMART goals according to how they were designed for, and don't be afraid to change these goals as time goes by. And again, everyone makes mistakes. So sometimes even you think you set a goal that is realistic, because of something significant that happens during that period of time, they don't seem to be realistic at all. So thanks for that, Tusha. I think that's a great input. And for all of you out there, do look out or understanding. Again, work out with your coach if you have a coach, to know and how SMART goals can really help you, especially to develop your running.
Okay, now let's start with our next question about how to stay motivated to reach your running goals. So, what are your takes, Eugene, on this?
Thanks, Tusha. And I've mentioned this earlier in the podcast, and I'm happy to expand on this. Now, motivation, in my opinion, can be classified as both intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Now, in a very simple explanation, intrinsic means that motivation comes from within the person, within the athlete. And extrinsic motivation means that the motivation is moving for something that is to be achievable externally on the outside. I'll give you some examples of both intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Now, when we look at professional athletes, one of the greatest motivation is actually good paying salaries. So if you were to be playing in a professional basketball league in the NBA, you would be looking at making a minimum of $1 million a year, and that's obviously extrinsic. So what makes the athlete work hard, train, deliver results? It's because of a very strong motivation, which is obviously the payout at the end of the day. So that's extrinsic. Now, intrinsic motivation would be an example of whereby someone or an athlete wants to do a particular sport well because he's passionate about it. He loves a sport. He finds that the sport brings value to his life and others. He's able to make differences, not just from himself again, but to the greater part of society. And that's what drives him to come out, train, be good at, and perform day in, day out. And that's all because of his own internal thoughts intrinsically. Now, let's bring this back to you. You're going to be a beginner runner, and my question to you is, what attracts you to be motivated? And it will be the same thing as well. If we look at extrinsic motivation, examples of extrinsic motivation for you could be you started running because you want to look better, you want to lose weight, you want to get good comments from your friends that, hey, you look good right now. So that's an extrinsic motivation. If that sounds familiar, don't worry. That's a good way to get yourself to stay motivated as well. Now, for some of you as well, why do you actually want to start running? And this could be from within, because you find inner peace when you start running. You're able to have clear thinking process when you start running. You feel less stressed. All these factors makes you fall in love with running itself, and that's something that drives you to get out your door every morning and start running and following your program. So I hope this too helps you to understand truly the difference between extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. And maybe you might want to take a step back and just understand a little more about what are the motivators in your life that has helped and will help you in your running itself. Now, some of the things that can also help you in terms of motivation is using techniques or finding ways to maintain your motivation. One of the good ways is to actually find accountable partners. If you have begun your running journey, you might find that it's very difficult to get out every day. And one of the best ways is to find a running buddy or friend or compatriot who share the same values as well as interest and passion in running. Now, when you have a buddy like that, you're basically accountable to them. And you tell yourself, no matter how tired you are after work, your buddy is waiting for you at the park and you show up. So that's one good way that can help you to also maintain your level of motivation. Now, in today's age and technology as well, if you don't have a buddy, technology comes into play. Now, technology comes in the forms of apps and programs and software. Now, even on your mobile phone, you'll be able to find plenty of apps that can help you stay motivated. These apps can be independent or it can be in working relationship with your coach. Now, with these apps and the programs and the software, it always tells you or gives you reminders that look, today you need to get off on your feet in your running shoes and start running, or today you may need to run a little further, or the next day you may actually need to take a break. So software and technology actually makes you accountable, something which a lot of us require. And finally, one of the best ways of actually getting yourself to stay motivated is to celebrate small wins. Many of us have big goals. Tusha was talking about the SMART goals just now. So you aim to run a 5K in 40 minutes, but during training, you find that it's quite a challenge to actually be able to complete the distance. Now, why don't you take a step back and really celebrate the small wins? If you have moved from running from 1 kilometer to 2 kilometers, that's a huge milestone. Celebrate it. Take a break. Tell your friends. And then when you move up from 2 kilometers to 3 kilometers, again, celebrate it. So celebrating these milestones again help you stay motivated, because sometimes we lose track of how difficult things can be, especially when trying to run towards a goal. And using milestones like that can serve as a form of both extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. So I hope you found that these tips are helpful for all of you in terms of being able to use motivation to help you in your running. And maybe Tusha, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, so I think you have covered fair enough of the topic, but let's just once again add some of the points here. So what I think is definitely, as Eugene has said, intrinsic and extrinsic motivation plays a huge role in your running journey. Extrinsic motivation definitely keeps you motivated, but that's not a sustainable thing. It's just for the shorter period of time. Intrinsic is what is coming from your heart, is coming from your inside, and that is when, if so, let's not relate to only for the running. If you want to achieve something in your life, or maybe in any area of your life, if that comes from within you, then you will definitely go ahead and do whatever the best you can do to achieve that. And that is what the intrinsic motivation is. Okay, so basically this is how your intrinsic motivation also works in your running training, and that is the importance of having the intrinsic motivation. But remember, that intrinsic motivation will come from your experience and the time you spend in your running training or in the sport. It will not be at a very first place. For some people, it definitely might be like okay, I want to get this done, and that is why they are coming to the sport. It might happen that in their case it is happening, but in most people's cases, what I have seen is intrinsic motivation comes after certain time they spent on this running journey. So another point that I would like to emphasize on, I won't go much into accountability partner and tracking progress because Eugene has covered a lot of things there. So what I just want to emphasize on celebrating your milestone. Most people do not realize it, but this is the very important aspect of it. And it's not like celebrating means you have a big celebration. No, it's not a big celebration. Even if you can treat yourself with a small thing that you love doing in your life apart from running, like let's say to give you an example, if you like to eat cakes, if you like to eat chocolates or whatever it is, if you like to eat, okay, just go ahead and eat that for a certain portion. Okay, don't overdo it obviously, but then it's just like treat yourself with a small portion of it. Or maybe you want to meet a friend, that's a different treat that you can give to yourself. Or you want to spend some time with some of your family members, or I'm not sure, there are n number of possibilities to this, but then you can celebrate it in your own ways. But always remember, if you are doing that, keep it in moderation. Let's say, to give you an example, if I say, if you love chocolates or if you love cakes, that's not a bad thing to eat. But if you are going to reward yourself with a lot of it, then obviously it is not good for you in that terms, right? So there are nutrition concepts which goes into it, but then let's not go into it like right now, because that is not a topic. So this is how the idea of celebrating the small milestones or giving yourself a reward is, and that is how it will work, because these small rewards will keep you motivated in a way, because you are spending the time in the things that you love. Okay, apart from running is definitely the thing that you love, but apart from running, what the things are you love that you are doing, and that is how it will give the change of routine to yourself, and how will keep you motivated in that case. So I think these are what my takes for how to stay motivated to reach your running goal. So yeah.
And so in this discussion, we covered quite a number of things. So just as a quick wrap up, we spoke on why you need goals as a runner. As you know, we've covered the various points, and goals are basically going to help you achieve how you can improve not just performance, but also move forward. In addition to that, we also talk about how set SMART goals. Remember, what's most important is not just going through the process, but more importantly, being true to yourself, so that these goals can actually really help you rather than just setting it for the sake of doing so. And finally, with whatever we have done, by using goals itself, it can actually help you to stay focused as well as motivated to achieve improving your performance and eventually doing your best and enjoying the sport as a whole. Now, do leave a comment if you think you have more questions to come in. We're most happy to have them. And if you found this podcast really useful, please share this with someone who you think can benefit from this. And so in our next podcast, we're going to explore how you overcome obstacles, especially in your running journey. And we'll also look at the psychological aspects of goal setting. So meanwhile, stay excited, and we'll see you in the next podcast. Cheers.
If you are in Pune, then do check out my face-to-face services. And if you are in any other parts of India, I do have online options too. My services are primarily based on a skill building approach, more of a technique-oriented, sport-specific strength training, mentorship and coaching, everything else that you can check out. I do drop a link in the description box. Go ahead and check the available services option that interest you. And let's catch up on the next one.